Ritter, the chair. This is John Ritter, the chair of the Monroe Gateway School District Intergovernmental Committee. This is our first meeting of the year. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, listen, guys, we're going to go for about an hour. We have three things on the agenda, and then we have room at the tail end to do some future planning for parking lot type projects. The three things on our list are security updates and initiatives, intergovernmental operations and communications, and the bridge and roads update. Eric Poach and I have brainstormed this agenda, and we've laid it out. We didn't formally invite the folks from Pitcairn. We informally invited them, but they haven't showed up. So we're recording this tonight so that everyone will be able to just have the ability to see what we talked about and to come to the next meeting fully prepared to engage. So the first item on the agenda is the security update and initiatives. So Dr. Short, could you give us an update as to what happened at the Ramsey Elementary School? No. And the police force and the security items that we're working on with respect to the municipality working with the school district's police force. Does that sound right, Eric?
Well, I don't want so much the police force, but Nick, go ahead. Yeah, how about you guys review?
Well, important. Yes, we have to, everybody has to be here. We haven't had one of these meetings in quite some time. Pandemic really changed things, but now that we have new members, this is great. Traditionally, the municipality has two members of council and the mayor. The mayor usually comes, and then we also have Dr. Short, and then traditionally it's been like two members of the school board that are on the committee themselves that meet. We're thankful to have everybody here this evening, so thanks for having us here over at the school district.
And Mayor, if I could interject, if we could have just a minute to go around the room and just introduce everyone.
That's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
Sure. John Ritter, Gateway School Board member.
Jack Bova, Gateway School Board member and Pitcairn resident.
Robin Mungo, School Board member.
Tim Little, Municipal Manager.
Eric Poach, Monroe Council.
Nick Griesoff, Monroe Mayor.
Dennis Biondo, Monroe Council.
Leslie McBride, School Board member.
Valerie Morning, School Board.
Susan Delaney, School Board.
Scott Williams, School Board. Bill Short, Superintendent.
So, just, if you don't mind, if we could just go right into this, because Dr.
Yeah.
Short and I briefly discussed some of these things. This is actually the perfect kind of intergovernmental situation. This has already been an intergovernmental situation here at Ramsey with Beechwood Park because many, many years, I don't know the whole history of the timeline, but Beechwood Park is a municipal park and playground. Ramsey School is obviously a gateway building and a gateway school, and we have shared the playground for the school and for the residents. And as we look at security upgrades, like we have on the agenda here, this was definitely a target of something that we could, in an intergovernmental fashion, tackle our security. I won't say maybe a flaw here, trying to secure that playground a little more. There was a lot of press on the incident that happened at Ramsey School that I know you all spoke at length about. And we have as well. But it's all about now how we're going to change and react to that issue. And Dr. Short, approached me about possibly coming up with some kind of security improvement at the playground, and I think that's where we can open up the floor with that.
And we've shared the playground and the entire park for decades now. Ramsey was built early 1970s, open-air concept building, which are becoming fewer and fewer in existence anymore. We've made a number of security improvements over the years where we've enclosed the classrooms, added doors into every classroom, avoiding that concept where, if one classroom was talking, another one could hear actually what was going on. So Inside, we've done some work, and also on the exterior of the building. You don't necessarily see it right here, but we've added some security measures out front. A governor's drive was added, but also externally cameras have been installed, both on the inside and the outside of the building. But one of the issues that we faced as a district is from this side of the building, the Ramsey students and staff do exit that area, and that's where the cafeteria is located in the kitchen, and simply walk out and utilize the wonderful playground that is adjacent to Beechwood Park. So as we started to really examine where we're at in 2022, the incident, but also how we can continue to improve upon security, we thought about the idea of possibly enclosing that playground area, pulling in some kind of accordion fence that would allow our staff and kids to exit and enter freely, so it's an enclosed area. I contacted the mayor. He was very gracious to meet with me at central office. We discussed potential drawings of what we could do, what we could examine, look at, change, incorporate into a more secure area, not only for the district, but for the community as well. Bob Brown, our Director of Building and Grounds, was able to contact a playground architectural firm. We recently added a playground onto the rear of Cleveland Stewart Elementary. And this, or I should say last week, he was able to have that architect over there to examine the current setup, but also look at the rear of Ramsey as well and see what we could do as far as fencing.
Don't complete that thought, Dr. Short, because someone had a brilliant idea for both that building and security, which was what we're looking at right below you, our screen sharing, and the back of the building is the back of the building. Oh, that's fine. Basically, what we talked about was screening in or fencing in the back of the school and creating a playground there, which would not only be secure, it would leave the Monroeville Park the way it is with access there. It would also provide another layer of security to the back of the school by having a fenced-in area. And I would still strongly recommend we explore that. I actually spoke to someone who, in the community or from the community who might be willing to donate some money to that project.
Well, let me add one other. Let's give it to this next slide here. Not that one. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So, full disclosure before we get started, actually Ramsey opened in 1969, and the reason I know that, short, is I was the first graduating class from Ramsey, so I'm showing my age. Okay. Yeah, all right. So I lived less than a quarter mile from here, so we're up here. I even remember when the baseball field was there, not this way. Right, Jack? Where we were playing, too. So, courtesy of our engineering department, Monroeville uses, and you can see this one's newer, although they don't have the cutout in the front too, but this is new. This is currently the garden in the back from that. We use an aerial photography system, GIS. It's not satellite, it's literally fly over Monroeville and put it in there, and then they lay the property lines as they listed by the county, over top of them. Along this part, and the fence is good because the fence that was originally put there is still there. Okay, as you move forward, I think back up. Sensitive. Sorry, guys. So you can see pretty much where that goes. In fact, it's probably quite accurate that the property line goes right through the swing set. No idea what it is. The entrance into what's part of the municipal park is here. The bollards that used to be here to park cars from there are not there and stuff too. So that's in place. I believe this area right here is ours, but it would be unincorporated. Right? Usually the term is unincorporated sections, which usually border that part of it as Monroeville. And this is the property line. Interestingly enough, there's a chain link fence right here. It's over the hillside. There's an existing chain link fence that's in place for them. So you can look at it. In fact, from that previous drawing, parts of it go property lines and all this other kind of stuff. So it really doesn't matter in terms of that part of what's in place. And these I just took yesterday, so these are up to date. So I just walked over and made sure they're in place. These are the things that are there that are in place, for the school. And this is, of course, down this side, and unfortunately, our participants list is over here. It's the same view with the baseball field, a little bit more, a longer view along this fence line that's in place. To do that, so, Bill, your approach is, you're absolutely correct. It's so integrated and has been since 1969. It's always been like that, that's been in place to it. So there's certainly great opportunities to do that. We're happy to help, I think, to see what else is ongoing with it. I tried to get a picture of the fence line. It's a little hard to get. It's actually, believe it or not, it's hard to see, but it's right there. So when you talk about the fences, you go right up to the next back of the property, it goes down, and then the fence line diminishes at this part as it goes further. So there is an existing chain link fence that's right over that part of the hillside.
And is that, sorry, Mr. Poach, is that walkway there, is that the one that goes to Ramsey Road?
Yeah,
or is that the one that goes to the building?
No, it goes around the building.
Yes, that's
There's one that
that
goes
we
right to the
looked
building.
at.
Yeah,
That's the one.
In my office, and
yeah. That goes around the building and comes back to here. It's on our GIS one. This is very sensitive. It's right here.
Yeah, and then I believe that, it's off the screen right now, but I believe that,
Goes to Ramsey. This is one of the cellar.
yeah, because there is a leg that goes right to the school, which, all right.
That way, and then around to here, and shared between all our. So, I thought this was probably the most important thing we talked about. How, been together for many, many years on this. I think this was looking back towards the entrance, which again, at one point there used to be bollards up top here that block that. There is ground court, but that's open. That's actually the school district piece, but this is part of the park. I think this is probably the last picture. So, but I think there's an awful, to your point, to say that we're closely related is an understatement. Particularly on this one. So I actually have these for you to write on, about the short. And I think, and again, given that we've made this, more public meeting, the specifics are things that we can, I know from a right to know perspective, security assessments, because we've done it with Monroeville as well. We've used the PSP evaluation, and with Robin for that too, and a great team that they bring to help. Those things can still remain confidential in the context of our improvements, to do that as they move in place too. So that's not impossible. Again, I'll leave you paper copies. You want to draw on it, write on it, whatever you want to do to help to do that. But I think what's our concern has been the usage, time and how we want to work it out.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Will you be closing it off to residents during school hours? And then what does that look like for those residents?
Well, I think that's why we're here. I mean, my opinion is that there would be one way in, a gate, whether it's a double gate or a single gate, and during the school day, the kids go in. I mean, I guess as far as like first thing in the morning, if there's someone that lives nearby that's going to take their toddler up there, it might be okay. But maybe once, the kids are going to come out, teachers can say it's closing down, everybody has to get out of the playground. But that's a call that we could make down the road. But I would envision this to be, closed for the most part, during the school day, and then not locked for like evenings and weekends, so Monroeville residents could still use it. There's a school district in my in-laws' hometown that they have a setup like this where their playground is fenced in, like a tennis court would be fenced in. It's open to the public, but on school days, the supervisors, the chaperones, the teachers, they're out there and they're at the gate, and the kids are inside. No one else can get in or get out except for that one entrance.
What does the activity look like during the day during the school week?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I can tell you this. Yesterday afternoon, our parks pick up. The park was loaded yesterday. This particular baseball field is on our list of fields that the recreation department uses. The Monroeville Baseball League was there yesterday. We get ready to team practice and stuff that's ongoing. During the day, most of the parks are not overly used at that time in the summer. Community Park West is the one off the Tilbrook seems to be the time to do that. And we can talk about more how to monitor that place or if there's a problem or complaint. But when if the lines on here that, magically, just appear from that too, but if we're securing this area around the school, again, it's a function of as it fits into your overall safety plan in terms of your responses, during emergencies that you need to have, and the ability to control access or not. I mean, as we know historically, and I've done some work in this space for a number of years, controlling the situation is better to take the initiative away from any emergent situation like we had just recently that's in place to do that, and be able to control access. That also includes isolating folks, keeping the bad guys away from the good guys. It keeps is also being able to have good access to hit the Homeland Security run, hide, fight axiom and process that's been developed in the last 20 years as well too. So those are all terrific opportunities to look at and fit with your existing security plan. You don't want people so locked in that they can't if something happens, because one of the features of this, every room pretty much has an exit, okay, which is great on one side, unless they exit into some place where they're locked in, to do that. So control and use of that can be built into the architecture of the new of the school in itself, to do that too.
Like 40-some exterior doors on the perimeter of Ramsey.
If I recall correctly, there's an exterior door at the end part of the frame. How many did you say? 20?
40.
40. Yeah, there's one every room. It's like from that standpoint of getting out of the building, thinking at the time, and again, what drove school safety in 1970 was fire safety. It always has been. It was life safety issues, special section of the life safety code. To do that, you can't get any better than this. From doing that, but controlling where people go and where they are is important. So controlling, what's inside of you, controlling that space, being able to take the initiative away from anybody by isolating them too. So, but what else do you have thoughts on? Now, the use during the day, I don't know. Does the school use the baseball field very much? Back in the day, yes, it was. Yeah. Okay, so there can be other access on or off to control there. So maybe not just one, but another. Access to it. That's a possibility too. I think all those things are open to do that, but it seems just at first glance, this is the first area to control and protect. Right. It's around here, moving cars away as well, so people can't come onto this space, and allowing the students to be able to use the space during the day. And then I think our ask to you is, assuring control of the access, making sure that, to Leslie's question, also the citizen's going to have it, and what's going to go on during the day.
And the evening as well. I mean,
open it so that it's
lighting,
I'm sorry.
Lighting for the evenings.
For us, we haven't put those on.
No, because most our parks close at dusk.
Yeah, pretty much, with exception.
That's a blanket kind of policy.
Exception in the east.
And I think what Mr. Poach said, I think I agree with him that, where do you draw the line with this? Do you fence the whole perimeter of the whole property of the school and everything? No.
Maybe you didn't understand. What I'm talking about is fencing from here back and from here back and then fence here. So the back of Ramsey is fenced for a playground. Maybe
And that's a school board decision. That's for you guys to figure out whenever we're not around and decide if that's what you want to do and do the equipment. I think we can, if you don't go that route, I think we can come up with a partnership, an existing partnership with Beechwood like we have been. So I think we have a couple options.
And I don't know if John planned on going school to school. Evergreen's got a very similar arrangement with their playground and its access from the community and to the community. So if this kind of idea makes sense for Ramsey, it would make sense for Evergreen too, correct?
Right, and so the...
And that fits in your security plan, to do that. And I don't mean to say this to be slight, but the analogy is fish and barrel from that too. If that fits with what's in your security plan and your evacuation plans, that's fine. If it's a larger, more diverse area or protection from the use of the playground equipment, which I've observed being used during the day. Correct? With that, yes. So you want to add that that space outside is also secure. So it's up to you guys for your decision. It's just what I think our biggest message is. We're willing to work with you on it. if this is all you decide to do, and again, expand, build this fence back up, there is not a continuous, this just happens to be the property line. It's not, but there is, this one on the bottom does coincide with the existing chain link fence, which is probably there since 1969. It's coming apart. It's old. It's in people's backyards. It's the backyard boundary for the residents on Monticello Drive to do that. If you're thinking it's something like this, you certainly don't want to go out to here with access back and forth from there to control so that nobody can come from this direction or uncontrolled from these directions, here, up through the woods, which is also a problem that we recently had, as well. You may be able to help do that and control access in and out too. So those are just kind of the options to throw out to you guys.
I'm just going to ask you, you're talking Evergreen. When you're talking Evergreen, are you talking the community park at Evergreen? Or are you talking the park, the playground area that?
I think is what I'm talking about, right.
Okay, the playground is already enclosed from their parking, aren't they? Isn't it, Dr. Short?
Yes.
Yeah, not the municipal Evergreen Park.
Correct.
Because that's,
So that's already enclosed.
The whole playground's enclosed?
Correct.
Beautiful, just like I'm talking about here. Okay.
we're getting things done already.
There you go.
Excellent.
But I thought this was helpful so you can see what's on there.
It is.
And use this as well from that. And it fits with whatever your evacuation recommendations are. Now, the also reason, I'm also here is I'm the public safety committee chair too. So, if you have the recommendations of the police fitting with what your most recent security assessments are in place and your other approaches of how you want to handle your evacuation plans, to open those back up. I don't think it's necessary myself, again, offering now just a pure opinion, I would not ask you to do anything over here, this large area. My sense has been here. So that you can control the access, use the equipment. The downside, as I see it, has been, we just asked that in the evening, the afternoon, that access is gained. And Jack, to your point, maybe there's another piece of this that you wanted to further secure from here. Generally, I don't know, your policy has been you have open, your schools, general things around it are somewhat open. The track is open, things like that too. But if there's a reason you wanted to change that, you could also as well too.
So the recent incident at Ramsey triggered the school board to ask itself the question, are we doing everything we can possibly do, to secure our playgrounds, our interior and exterior, and our operations? And so if we would do anything with any of the other elementary schools, we would probably want to finish the work on Ramsey first, see that it's working quite well, and then maybe use that as a template for some of the other schools in our area. We also have the state police. Is that true, Robin, that they've evaluated what we're doing, how we're doing it, why and when? And they're going to give us a report.
Maybe getting their feedback, because they're going to look at the entire area and getting their feedback and their recommendation as far as what would be the best thing. Because you don't want to have people enclosed in an area and they can't get out. And then if you enclose it, you got to have points of entry, exit, and where would they be, and who would control that with lock and key. I mean, there's just so many different moving parts, but
Right.
You definitely want to get their feedback to know what would be the best situation.
And PSP just recently completed their assessment of Ramsey. And one of the first things they did was do a light assessment as well with our parking lights and everything in the area. So we should be able to have that full report and be able to make some decisions based off of that soon.
I think we just wanted to let you know,
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Yeah,
We're willing to
work together.
cooperate.
Right.
This is an easy one from our standpoint, so.
I think we were looking at last year, we improved a good deal of the equipment in our parks, for kids, and stuff too. Ramsey's still on the list, a couple of the other ones are here, we talked about 3 or 4 last year with the PDA component, so.
So this would be, to Mr. Poach's point, this is one, the playground gets a lot of use and it shows. And if we were going to go down this road of addressing this, maybe that's something we would take the next step of, maybe looking at new equipment there. Mr. Bobe, I know you're talking about fencing and putting a playground, but maybe part of your decision, maybe you put some of that money, instead of doing a playground in that one fenced-in area, put it towards playground equipment at Beechwood, and the municipality maybe could help offset some of those costs for the playground as well.
Well, that's possible, as is putting a playground behind the school and not fencing it in.
Correct, that's what I mean.
Fences and point
That's
of
what I mean, yeah.
egress and ingress are concerned. But it's something we as a board should certainly discuss before we begin doing things.
Yeah, so, I mean, in the interest of time, I think we're good on this topic, I think. I mean, because at this point, I think you guys have some, ladies and gentlemen, need some time to figure out what you want to do on our end, but we're just here to let you know that we're willing to work with you on this.
Good. So let's move on to the second topic. That's the interoperational communication. So Eric?
Sure. Actually, mine starts with a question.
Sure.
We understand we came about the grant, maybe a little bit longer, I could be off. About 3 months ago, I know you guys were moving forward in looking at communication systems and radio systems were there and asked for grant, our cooperation in Monroe to do that, which I believe the chief got out to you guys signed the letter to support their grant acquisition for the radio system. Yeah, we did move that together. So I'm interested to hear where that is. And then there's a couple of things we've been bouncing back and forth on what is happening in the next few years. We're trying to think a little further down the road to encourage that we can take advantage of some of the things that we have and are coming, not just here in Monroeville, but also across Allegheny County as well. Some things too. So do we have any understanding of where the grant process is?
Micah, are you on?
I just texted him. He's trying to get the audio clearer.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I am on.
Okay. Go ahead. Micah, can you
Question
hear?
about the grant for the radios, partnering with Monroeville Police.
Yes, the grant that we were looking at last year was just released for this school year, or this calendar year, I guess I should say. We're still going through the details as far as the grant requirements. Some of the grant aspects are still the same, where it would still apply to radios, it would still apply to intergovernmental cooperation like what we're doing here. But they changed some of the details in terms of how we have to apply and the backing we need for the grant. So once we go through that, we can see if we can still utilize the grant for this project. It looks like we can, but again, because some of the change, I can't say if that grant still applies.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's a great update. Thank you so much for that.
When is that due? When is the grant due, turned in by?
I believe it is late June.
One of the things that I wanted to bring to you and encourage you with is it's my understanding from a brief overview of it, the system that is moving forward as favored in the schools is somewhat based on a business model. You have to do that. Business communication. The whole world of communications is changing a little bit more and improving. One of the things that's happening post-COVID, there's a several $100 million, $300 million project moving forward, $200 million project moving forward with Allegheny County and radio systems that we're also consistent with. Although, as you know, we maintain our own, and we maintain our own communication center. So when you pick up a dial 911, yes, it goes to Allegheny County, but interestingly enough, when they see it on their screen, and it matches, for those of you with cell phones, it matches your GPS coordinates, where it is that that person is calling from, or the Annie and Allie automatic number identification location of that call. When it sees Monroeville, or in the jurisdiction of which that we have services, which also includes BitCare for some of the stuff that we do, and as well, boom, it comes right back to our center. Okay, we're a ring down center, here to do that, which we staff all the time, and it's in place. So, that capability of being integrated with that is quite helpful. So one of the things that may or may not be helpful as these systems grow in the next, I'm looking at 5 years probably now, that's in place, is Allegheny County's plan. I just talked to their guys in emergency services today. And I wanted to encourage you to have your staff work with, Chief Cool's used to the point of contact, to do that in our community, that make sure that the architecture is open enough to be able to integrate more closely with ours. I'll tell you why. Good and bad. Okay? There's going to be a bad for this too. Okay? There's going to be a bad. But the good has been back to our original point of taking control of the problems and communications that are in place, across, an incident that's occurring. there's some capabilities that we can do by frequency sharing and moving things together with the help of a computer that makes it extremely more efficient to do that. It's called trunking. That's in the pipeline for the next 5 years to use communications and sharing. PSP's picking up on that. In fact, now they finally are doing that with their trunking the VHF system and the larger system across the state. So that's one piece that's in place. But one of the things that I think we've learned in the last 20 years of problems and incidents that occurred at school has been if you have control of the communications, you can gain valuable intelligence about the problem that's going on, up to and including data that comes back into it. So the architecture being open up to do that. You have extensive security systems in there. Interestingly enough, we just upgraded our links between all of our tower sites. We have 40 gigabyte capability. With plenty of room for that to be able to do that, and also to be able to add data and information, which includes the digitized system, digital streaming of information as well. So I want to encourage you to try to do that. It's the bad part. Okay? Always bring your visual aids with you. That's our system that we have here between fire and EMS, emergency management, and the police department that's on there. This is probably 2.5 times more expensive than the business system that you're looking at. That may or may not affect your usage on what you want to spend towards the amount of money that you want to spend on the project.
So Eric, for the folks at home, could you describe what that is?
Oh yeah, sure. This is our portable handheld radio. It's by Motorola. It's an ATX 4000. It has. Think of it this way: I have more computer power in my hand right now than it took to land on the moon, and the capability to handle multiple channels, and channels is one part of it, but the capability inside of it to help us to share things and control them. From a technical standpoint, that's probably all the further we should get into right now. From that, whether it's a trunk system that's in place, the radio frequencies that you're getting and that we have, there are some things from a technological standpoint that can be joined together. As long as we're progressing on the same line. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No. Is it going to begin to happen if you have the right architecture at the beginning? That's, I think, the message I wanted to ask to you guys for consideration, and as you upgrade the green, to bring that in. Another downside, we get stuck with a single vendor. It's proprietary technology. It's now we've kind of committed to, and that's fine from it. But this is about 2.5 times more expensive than the average, which would, if you're just, I don't know what your usage is going to be, and I don't need you to lay me the details out right now. If it's just back and forth in and around the building, great. You want to talk about different communicating, between different buildings, yeah, that's fine. I actually have your frequencies, in our radios, and it's not working right now. They're not up there. There's something has changed in there. We're going to actually start to look at and see why that is. They may not be as compatible. We do have some of the frequencies that you have already to do that. So if we are responding to an incident here, the interesting thing is these things can be controlled by the people on the scene here. So whether a cell phone's locked up, not as much as they used to, but everybody in the building has a cell phone, right? Including the people that are coming, including the news channels, including. We can work around all of that and gain information from inside the building, the facility, on what's going on, as well as from a command and control standpoint too. So, good news, there's technology joined to that. It also puts it into our communication center here in Monrovia. That's something you can gain access to on a regular basis, to do that if there's something that happens directly from that. Bad news, it's more expensive.
Is Pitcairn aligned with the channel as well that would be able to communicate?
Their police are on here. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. In fact, they made a very interesting arrest yesterday from the camera readers that alerted on another community called and said, hey, we have this problem. They have a license plate reader. Put it in the system. So when it's coming your direction, so it alerted on the radios. Interestingly enough, it also alerts on our police officers' phones, so they have the information here. In addition to the CAD screen that's in place, they announced that it was Pitcairn that found the car because they shared that in place and made the arrest of a stolen car. They had no idea they were being followed for $48 million. To do that. That's happening. That happens now quickly, and that technology and those license plate readers are good. that's kind of my ask to you. What other, I mean, I don't know that, again, Mike is working on the grant to do that. I would encourage him to also engage, with the chief and our Motorola folks as well to talk about the downside. It's a single benefit.
Cost.
With these radios, and Dr. Short, you might also need to answer this. I know we have current radios in place.
Correct.
Would these radios 100% replace all those so the teachers will also have these, or would it be more just like a couple per building?
It would be our security personnel, staff, administration, areas of the building, say cafeteria, going outside, somebody would have one. But individual teachers, no.
Yeah, kind of what they do now.
Correct.
Yes, what they have now,
Yeah.
the administration.
And Michael, this is something that I think you brought to our attention when we were discussing radios about integrating with Monroeville. Was this the system you were telling us about?
It was one of them. So the integration we have right now is we have a shared channel. So basically it's just one path between us and Monroeville Police. This would basically open that up a great deal with potentially multiple channels, both internally and externally. But it was one of the options that we discussed.
Does that channel work?
Not very well.
Not very well.
I tried it earlier today.
And does a lot of this grant cover the cost based on the minimal amount of information you have right now?
It looks like it does cover radios. Radios were explicitly listed. The changes to the grant were primarily around the documentation around the project and not with the specific equipment you can purchase.
And then what about stations and docks and whatever other computer equipment that would need to be put in to manage the higher end radios?
So we would manage it directly. I believe the way Monroeville is set up is they would have the ability to program our radios. So we would probably have to have a radio plan for our radios that they would be able to push out. Now, if we do something separate from their system that we want to integrate with, then we would have to do the programming and everything on our own, and then work together to get those systems to talk.
So this would be more efficient than doing all of that.
It would, because it would be one management system for a larger set of radios.
And interestingly enough, all you have to do to program or to put the radios in the system or out of the system, whatever place, is turn it on. Once it's in the system, it can be managed remotely. If somebody has it, it's stolen, it's in place, it's out, turn it on. Do it remotely. I mean, we can do that right now with this. The other piece that this system will do, again, good and bad, all right? Number one, as the state's moving forward, and I forget what the act is, I don't know when it's in effect, help me, Dennis, if it comes back to is the encryption requirements of the crime schedule. So pretty soon, we're going to be prohibited, law enforcement's going to be prohibited from saying people's name, date of birth, and stuff on open channels. Our equipment is encrypted, we can encrypt that to do that, so that we're the only ones that hear it, to do that, and control that information. That's certainly a feature that you may or may not want to have that's in place. Bad side, it's expensive. I'm going to keep saying that over and over again. It's not cheap, but we want to have the opportunity now when you begin to plan. From my understanding, the cost that Microsoft that grant was $300. I'm sorry, what was the cost?
The grant would cover $500,000.
Yeah, so that's the first step into a lot of what it is that we're talking about. If we're
Well, would you have a contract with them? I mean, at some point in time, the software is going to change. I mean,
part of the
which
cost.
means if you change, we have to change.
That's right. Well, upgrade what you did. So we are getting married to, we've upgraded our dispatch software. Our dispatch software is integrated with our records management system. The information that's even further integrated with the camera systems, the body cameras as well. We made a great leap forward technologically. One of the reasons we added an additional IT person this past year and a half ago was we went from data consumption in most of the police department from this to this. Okay, so whenever our officers walk in with the body cameras, the minute they walk in, well, the minute the car pulls to the station, it's uploaded to our servers. The minute they walk into the station block, their information is uploaded. And then administrative personnel right now, if the chief was sitting at home or if he's watching on television, he can do this, this, and this, and bring it up on his phone. He can do that now.
All right, so we have about 14 minutes left in this meeting. I'd like to ask one related question, and that is we not only need to protect the kids and the staff while they're in school or on our playgrounds or athletic fields, but we transport them in buses. These buses have radios and cameras and drivers that are trained, et cetera. Is there some sort of a vision for the police having some sort of ability to integrate at times when necessary with what's going on inside of a bus?
When you look at integration as you move forward, okay, the ability to expand, our vision on the Monroeville side is up to and including even public works for everything. We need to do that. So as the emergency management, guys, we look at that and say, when we have a large problem, we want to be able to integrate all of our assets if necessary to do that. Adding to that is a piece, and if you think of just like a computer network, that's something that's added into place. The only thing that limits us from doing that is the capacity to run the system and video and data takes a lot of it. At the moment, we're kind of okay. It's not our vision, it's what your vision is to do that.
So when was the last time any of our systems and radios were upgraded?
Yours are probably not, it's a good question, Susan. The system that you have now, to be honest with you, all you really need to do is make sure your batteries work. Okay, I mean, that's not a, it works. You know, I mean, the system works. It's simple, it's straightforward. You find it's probably on our end right now why we're not integrated with it. It's probably a programming issue. You get into the check and find that out.
Like 10 years.
Works. You know, I mean, it works simple, and that's the capacity. But if you're considering this and considering moving forward, and we talk about managing incidents within a facility that's ongoing, we can do a lot more to take over that control. But the bad news is,
Cost.
Expensive.
All right, so the last topic on our agenda is bridges and roads. And so the municipality's in charge of trying to keep them open and the snow removed and covered, et cetera, and surveilled and upgraded and put on lists, et cetera. And when the bridges and roads don't work, our transportation people have to find alternate routes to get the kids to the bus stop at time, and if they're not on time, the parents worry. So we have to keep asking the question, what can be done to keep the roads and bridges up to specification and safe and cleared and useful?
I mean, I think, Dennis?
Well, I mean, I guess the answer is we every year we continue to pave, and we have a capital through the capital improvement plan and through our budget each year. We go through the roads. That there's a grading system, and I should have brought the handouts with me, and I did not. There is a grading system that they go through to determine which roads are in most need of the upgrades. That is done on a yearly basis by our Public Works Department. The engineering department. And they do, they're consistently graded, and we do update the roads as we can, so long as it fits within our budget.
I think Haymaker's up, or is that county? Or
It's county. Haymaker's a county road, yeah.
We have a lot of county roads that we
A lot of county, a couple state roads.
state roads.
John, to add to that, Paul Hughes, everybody here knows Paul Hughes.
Sure.
Public Works Manager. He gave a report in March. And we've had two bridges, both on Acres Creek, the one up by the CVS and also the one on Acres Creek. About halfway through Acres Creek, I'll say. It was a third-party engineer that is hired by PennDOT. And they do inspections. We get a report if there's any kind of deficiencies or deterioration starting. And we had two of the bridges I'm talking about. We went in there and made repairs on a big corrugated steel culvert and made repairs in it. So we do get reports periodically. I'm going to guess maybe once every 18 months is what we get on the bridges. And the one bridge, we had a meeting with the county and the church over by Penn Hills comes together, the Thompson, Old William Penn Highway number 3. There's money looking to get to that because the church over there, they're bottlenecked in, and they want to get that all reconfigured, and they're trying to get grant money, and they're working with the county and us and Penn Hills and trying to get that.
It's the Hindu temple. It's in Penn Hills.
The entrance
It's
is
right entrance of Monroeville. Wilkins Township is on their back. Like, so it's a three communities there.
All right.
And there was a bridge there that Mr. Little was talking about that actually Monroeville and Penn Hills shares. So, but they're more likely.
Bridge. That one-lane bridge coming from the temple.
No, it's whenever you go through the tunnel and going towards Penn Hill, your old William Penn, you go through the tunnel, and then as soon as you go past the stop sign, there's the bridge.
You go under the tunnel, and then you go straight.
That's the demarcation of Penn Hills and.
Three-way stop
That
in there.
is
It's a three-way
yeah.
stop,
It's a
isn't it?
little one, but
Yes,
it's
It's a little bridge.
Exactly.
Yep, it's a creek.
So Nick, I'm glad you brought up about Wilkins and Penn Hills, because our school district is required to send some kids, in our transportation buses and vans well outside our district. And when that happens, they have to find the best routes depending on snow or accidents or troublesome bridges or roads or, upgrades or something like that. So our poor transportation director and the transportation company have to always be surveilling what's happening on a given day. Something's underwater because the rain came down and flooded and they have to go around. So this is a question that's always on the back of our transportation director's mind. How can we best make sure that the kids get where they need to go and do it
And
safely?
as far as like the maintenance of roads, as far as snow removal and ice, ice treatment, I mean, we'll put Monroeville's roads against anybody else's. I mean, our public works department does an excellent job. That's also the police department, the dispatch center. They're always monitoring. They radio in, and we spend a fair amount of money on it, but I think it's important. But when Monroeville's roads, we have a black road policy pretty much in the wintertime, to keep things clear. And then to Mr. Biondo's point, as far as maintaining them, as much as we can within our budget, we do. Mr. Little, it's $2 million? $2 million this year that we've allotted for, and a couple roads get milled and paved. We have some other treatment ways to prolong the life of these roads. We're trying these other methods, the seal coat, where they do like a tar and chip, but then they put another seal of tar over top of it. Not everybody loves that. However, to mill and pave a mile of road, it is $250,000. So that price goes up very quickly. So these other things that we've done has really brought the price down.
An hour road.
A mile.
1 mile.
1 mile of road is $250,000 to mill and pave. So we've tried these other methods to stretch the dollar a little bit more, and I think we do a pretty decent job. And then we have, like you mentioned, some state roads, some county roads, the bridges. Some of those bridges are on Monroeville roads, but the county is in charge of the bridge. So a lot of moving parts there. But
Any update on the proposed circle across from Gateway Campus, Route 48,
The jug handle?
Jug Handle?
Oh, that.
Oh, that.
It's funny, every time I go through the intersection, I sit there and play engineer.
our great-grandchildren will have an update soon.
You talk about a project for every university and college in the Commonwealth. Set that in front of them and say, come up with something.
Yeah, it would be great, and I think actually it's one of these situations as far as like state dollars, federal dollars. I mean, that's a good one because we get into a school district, a municipality, a state road, a county road, a hospital. So
It's bad. And examining the recommended changes, I mean, there's always pluses and minuses that we can talk.
And I
About later on, yeah.
Pre-COVID, Allegheny Health had a potential idea of trying to lessen some of the volume on that by, voluntarily building down through the back. And I'm not sure that that's still on the radar. Person on the bike side.
to answer your question, no, we don't have it
Yeah,
now.
at some point, maybe not in our lifetime, 48 down to the sheets needs to be 4 lanes at some point.
All right, shall we meet again in about 3 months? I mean, we've got the summer coming up, and then the kids come back to school in late August,
Yeah, I
September.
think maybe before kids come back, I think be probably a
Somewhere
reasonable
around there.
time.
Sounds good.
And I'll be able to update everyone once we receive drawings from both ends, from Beechwood Park and behind Ramsey. To provide
Yeah, and then
more
whatever
details, yeah.
you decide as a board, we'll certainly put in front of our council. You know, we would have to make it official, but I mean, I'm pretty confident that council would be willing to work there. I mean, it's pretty easy on our end.
And the next meeting will be at your facilities, and we're happy to ping pong back and forth. All right, folks, thank you very kindly. I appreciate it.
One quick question.
Oh, sure, one question.
About communication with Eric. So you give me an idea, I didn't get the numbers. So do you have like probably 150 of those devices?
Actually, it's 170, yeah, you're pretty close, yeah, it's about 170.
And so we will add another 200 units to the DAPs to it. I mean, are we talking about that kind of volume?
That's really up to you, Ford, and your use. It wouldn't be, my experience tells me, it wouldn't be too different from that, add to that. But the system is able to handle that, to do that. Even trunk systems are able to handle hundreds and hundreds of raising systems. And that's, again, just so that, one of the reasons I brought up was, we're well aware of some of the money that's coming from Allegheny County, what they're building out. They've given us, we've got a number of these also given from some of the recovery money through Allegheny County that's coming, to every police officer has one, of course, to do that. The fire apparatus that you'll see, there's generally the rated that's in the unit itself, and 8 of these components are 6 for each of the apparatus, 2 for every ambulance. I mean, it starts running up the numbers to do that. And their plan with where they're going with the trunk things in the next 5 years to control it is including, they're getting the units out now to do that, and then to continue to upgrade. I mean, they're talking, their high end is a couple $1,000 a unit to do that too.
All right, Mrs. Cerrucci, we're getting ready to close down. If you have any words of wisdom, questions, issues for us. If not, all in favor of...
I'm good.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Never going to do that.